The research vessel Helios Crown moved quietly through deep space, its silver hull shining under the soft blue light of a distant star. Inside the ship, hundreds of crew members worked in calm rhythm, but one part of the ship remained silent, almost forgotten. It was the lower engineering bay, a place where people rarely went unless something was broken. And inside this quiet space stood Lieutenant Astra Vale. Astra was once known as one of humanity's best starfighter pilots. People used to cheer when she entered hangars. Her face had been on recruitment posters, her name spoken with pride across many stations. But now, she stayed hidden in the shadows of the engineering bay, where she spent her days checking wiring, adjusting circuits, and avoiding every person who tried to talk to her. The battle she survived months ago still lived in her mind like a deep storm. The machine swarm, cold, metal, and merciless, had destroyed her squad. Only she made it back. She returned with scars on her arms, burn marks on her shoulder, and a deep feeling that she had failed the people she cared about most. She believed the universe had no more use for her. So she chose silence. Every morning she reported for small repair tasks. She refused flight checks. She declined simulation practice. When her old squad mates tried to speak to her, she pretended not to hear. She thought hiding made things easier for everyone. But everything changed when Commander Ryan Soul arrived on the Helios Crown. Ryan was not a soldier. He was a diplomatic envoy, someone who traveled between species, listened to their problems, and found peaceful solutions where others only saw conflict. Many said Ryan had a rare gift. He could look at a person and understand them, even when they could not understand themselves. He was calm, confident, and carried a type of quiet strength that made people feel safe. He came aboard to evaluate the Helios Crown's crew before the Galactic Accord prepared for a new mission. Nobody expected him to pay attention to the engineering bay. But on his first day of inspection, he noticed a woman working alone beneath a humming fusion coil. Astra did not look up when he approached. She kept her face down, tools in hand. "You are Lieutenant Astra Vale," Ryan said softly, but with certainty. Astra froze. She had not heard anyone say her full name in a long time. She kept her eyes on the coil and replied in a low voice, "I prefer to stay off official lists now, Commander." Ryan tilted his head, studying her for a moment. He noticed her stiff posture, the tension in her shoulders, and the way she kept turning her face slightly so her scars were harder to see. But he did not stare at them. Instead, he focused on the strength in her hands and the intelligence in the way she handled the equipment. "I heard you once flew like no one else," he said. "I also heard you created a maneuver that saved an entire convoy." Astra tightened her grip on the tools. "People exaggerate stories. I was only doing my job." Ryan smiled gently. "If saving lives is only doing your job, then you had a very important job indeed." Astra didn't reply. She didn't want praise. Praise hurt now. It reminded her of everything she had lost. Ryan noticed her silence, but he did not push. Instead, he took a slow breath and walked around the engineering bay with his hands behind his back. "Your captain told me you haven't flown in a long time," he said after a moment. Astra's stomach tightened. "I'm not useful in battle anymore." "Why do you believe that?" he asked. She shrugged. "I made mistakes. People died, and I survived only because of luck." Ryan walked closer and leaned against a nearby railing, keeping a respectful distance. His voice stayed calm, almost soft. "Every person who survives war thinks the same thing," he said. "They carry scars, sometimes on their skin, sometimes deep inside, and they think scars mean weakness." Astra looked away. Ryan continued, "But scars also mean something else. They mean you fought. They mean you endured. They mean you learned." Astra let out a breath, but her voice remained cold. It doesn't change what happened. I am better down here. Quiet. Out of the way. That is not what I see, Ryan answered calmly. Astra's eyes slowly lifted. This time, she looked directly at him. She expected pity. She expected judgment. But she saw neither. His gaze held steady warmth, a kind of honest respect she had not felt in a long time. I see someone with rare insight, Ryan said. Someone who understands our enemy more deeply than any officer in this fleet. That is why I came here. Astra frowned. Came here? For me? Yes, Ryan said. The machine swarm is rising again. The Accord needs a strategy, and you are the only human who has survived direct swarm tactics and lived to analyze them. We need your mind, Lieutenant. Astra felt a rush of fear. She shook her head quickly. No. I cannot fight again. I am not asking you to fly, Ryan said gently. Not yet. I am asking you to think, to help us see the swarm the way you do. Astra looked at her hands. They trembled slightly. I don't know if I can, she whispered. Ryan took a single step forward, not close enough to pressure her, but close enough that she could hear the sincerity in his voice. You can, he said. You just stopped believing it, but your worth did not disappear. You simply lost sight of it. Astra felt her breath catch. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with the unfamiliar feeling of someone believing in her again. For months, she had only seen her scars, her failures, her ghosts. But this man, this stranger, saw something else entirely. Before she could think of a reply, the ship's communication panel lit up. Incoming message. Commander Ryan Soul, urgent. Ryan gave her a small nod. The Council wants an answer soon. I hope your answer will be yes. He turned to leave, but before stepping out, he glanced back at her with a calm, steady confidence. You survived what others could not, he said. That is not weakness, Astra. That is strength. The doors slid shut behind him, and for the first time in a long time, Astra Vale turned away from her shadows and wondered, just wondered, if maybe she still had a place in the fight for humanity's future. The next morning on the Helios Crown began like any other. Quiet halls, steady hum of engines, crew members moving with practiced steps. But Astra Vale felt something new inside her. A pull, a question, a spark she thought had died months ago. She tried to ignore it. She washed her face, tied her hair back, checked her uniform, and went straight to the engineering bay as usual. But her hands kept pausing, her mind drifting back to Ryan Soul's voice. Your worth did not disappear. You simply lost sight of it. Those words replayed in her head again and again. By midday, Captain Wren called her to the briefing room. Normally, Astra disliked meetings, but she knew why she was being summoned, Ryan Soul, and she had no excuse to avoid it. When the doors opened, Ryan stood beside a hollow table displaying shifting red patterns, machine swarm movement maps. The moment Astra walked in, he offered a small, encouraging nod, as if he had known she would come. Captain Wren greeted her warmly. Lieutenant Vale, thank you for joining us. Commander Saul told us you might help with new tactical evaluations. Astra felt her throat tighten. Captain, I'm not sure if I can help much. Ryan stepped forward. Then start with little help. Even one observation from you could change everything. His voice wasn't pushy. It was steady, honest. And somehow that made Astra want to try. She took a deep breath and looked at the maps. The glowing red figures represented machine ships, hundreds of them, moving in strange, unpredictable patterns. Everyone else sees chaos, Ryan said, but you have seen their tactics up close. What do you see? Astra leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. Her pilot instincts, long buried, woke up like a machine turning back on after years of dust. These formations, she said slowly, they aren't random. The swarm never moves randomly. They always move with purpose. Captain Wren stepped closer. Explain. Astra lifted her hand and traced a line across the map. This curve here, it's a lure. They want our ships to follow it. Ryan smiled. And then? Astra swallowed, remembering the horror she lived through. Then they turn. Fast. Faster than most ships can react. They surround, close gaps, and trap the target inside a tightening circle. Captain Wren frowned. That's exactly what happened at Vantaris Outpost. Astra nodded, her voice quiet. Yes. And it's what destroyed my squad. Ryan watched her carefully, not pitying, not judging, simply listening. Astra forced herself to continue. But the machines cannot change plans mid-attack. They commit to a pattern once they start. Their strength is speed, not creativity. Ryan's eyes brightened. Which means if we can predict the pattern, we can counter it, Astra finished, feeling a small rush of confidence. Captain Wren exchanged a surprised look with Ryan. Lieutenant Vale, this insight is invaluable. Would you be willing to help us build a full prediction model? Astra hesitated. Her fear tried to rise again, the fear of returning to anything connected to battle. But for the first time since the tragedy, something stronger rose too. Purpose. She nodded, slowly but firmly. I can try. Ryan's expression softened with pride. That is all we need. Days turned to weeks. Astra and Ryan began working together in a small strategy room, surrounded by hollow screens, data chips, and simulation devices. At first, Astra spoke little, offering short observations, simple suggestions. But Ryan never rushed her. He never pushed too hard. He treated every idea she shared like it mattered. And because of that, she shared more. Day after day, their work grew deeper. Astra analyzed old battle recordings. She mapped out machine flight paths, decoded behavior loops, corrected mistakes in Accord AI simulations, and slowly started building a predictive algorithm that could track and anticipate swarm attacks with human intuition. One evening, after hours of work, Astra rubbed her eyes and leaned back in her chair. It feels strange, she said quietly. Thinking like this again, planning battle movement. Ryan glanced at her from across the table. Strange good or strange bad? Strange, scary, she admitted. But also, right. Ryan smiled. Growth feels like that. Astra felt her cheeks warm. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. Testing the new algorithm. The Helios Crown's tactical team watched with interest as Astra activated the first proto-version of her algorithm. The hollow screens lit up with moving blue lines, the predicted machine paths, overlaying the official Accord maps. Within minutes, the room filled with murmurs of shock. The predictions were accurate, more accurate than any model the Accord had ever produced. Captain Wren stared at the results. Lieutenant Vale, this is remarkable. But to Astra, it wasn't enough. It still needs refining. The swarm updates its patterns every few months. We need to test new data. Ryan chuckled softly. You see, the person who thought she had nothing to offer is now improving galactic defense strategy. Astra tried not to smile, but she couldn't help the small one that escaped. The return of fear. 2 weeks later. The Galactic Accord sent an urgent message. A new swarm structure had been discovered inside a dark, uncharted nebula. Astra felt a cold wave rush over her. The last time she heard such a message, her entire squad never came home. During the emergency meeting, Ryan stood beside her while the Council's holograms explained the situation. We need a strategist who understands the swarm. We request Lieutenant Astra Vale to lead the tactical planning. Astra's heart pounded. Lead? Her? In front of the whole Accord? She stepped back. I can't. I'm not ready. I can help from here, but I cannot lead an operation. Ryan placed a calm hand on the table, not touching her, but grounding the moment. Astra, he said quietly, you are ready. You have done the work. You understand the enemy better than anyone. She shook her head. But my scars are not limits, Ryan said firmly. They are reminders of what you survived. Astra looked at him, breath unsteady. In her chest, fear and hope struggled. She had spent so long hiding that stepping forward felt impossible. But when she looked at the maps, the missions, the people counting on her, she felt something shift. Maybe she could stand again. She inhaled deeply. If I lead, I need full access to swarm archives. Captain Wren nodded. Granted. And I want Commander Saul by my side. Rian blinked, surprised, but also honored. If you want me there, I will be. For the first time in months, Astra lifted her chin with confidence. Then I'll do it, she said. I'll lead. Preparing for departure. The meeting ended. Officers rushed to their stations and the ship buzzed with new energy. Humanity was moving toward the nebula and toward the unknown. Ryan walked with Astra toward the command deck. You made a brave choice, he said. It still scares me, Astra admitted. That means you care, Ryan replied, and people who care make the best leaders. Astra looked out at the stars through the glass corridor, feeling the weight of her past and the promise of her future pulling together. Tomorrow, the Helios crown would warp toward the machine swarm. Tomorrow, Astra Vale would step back into the fight she once ran from, and for the first time since the day she lost everything, she believed, truly believed, that she might rise again. The Helios crown entered the dark nebula like a silver arrow sliding into thick fog. The stars outside disappeared behind swirling clouds of blue and black gas. Strange electric lights moved inside the darkness, like silent storms waiting to wake. Every sensor on the ship buzzed with warnings, but the crew held steady, trusting their mission, trusting their leaders. At the center of the command room stood Lieutenant Astra Vale, no longer hiding in the shadows, no longer doubting every step. Her hands still trembled slightly, but she kept them steady on the hollow table. She wore her pilot badge again, not as a symbol of perfection, but as a promise that she would not run from her past anymore. Beside her stood Commander Rian Sol, calm and steady as always. His presence gave her a quiet strength, reminding her she did not face this alone. All ships in formation, Captain Wren announced. Astra, the fleet is ready. Astra looked at the swirling nebula map on the screen. Deep inside, she saw it, the red glowing structure the machines had been building, a superweapon, a quantum disruptor strong enough to break organic neural networks. If activated, it could destroy every living mind in its range. She took a breath. We move on my signal. The crew waited. Astra stared at the movement patterns of the machines. They were shifting, forming lines and circles, moving in ways only she understood. She pointed to a narrow path through the nebula. There, she said, that small gap. The swarm won't expect us to use it, but if we enter at the right angle, they cannot close the circle fast enough. Captain Wren raised an eyebrow. It looks tight. It is, Astra said, but humans can do what machines cannot. We can improvise. A small smile touched Ryan's lips. HFY, he said quietly, pride in his voice. Astra gave the signal. Into the swarm. The fleet moved as one unit, sleek human ships glowing with blue engines, wings folding and unfolding like birds in flight. As soon as they entered the gap, Astra predicted, the machine swarm reacted. Red metallic fighters burst from the shadows, moving in deadly patterns. Their bodies shimmered with cold light, their formations sharp and fast. "Swarm is surrounding!" a tactical officer warned. Astra leaned forward. "Stay on course. They are trying to trap us, but they committed too early." She watched the patterns. Her algorithm highlighted the next swarm movement in faint blue curves. Prepare counter-turn in 3, 2, 1, now! The fleet curved sharply, human pilots moving with instinct and fluid energy no machine could fake. The machine ships curved too, but just a moment too late. The human ships slipped through the opening before the circle closed. Cheers filled the command room, but Astra did not celebrate. "This is only the first wave," she said. "The danger grows deeper inside." The moment she said it, the nebula shook. A massive machine structure appeared, floating like a red metal moon, pulsing with crackling energy. The quantum disruptor, its glowing core charged with power that could erase entire civilizations. Astra felt a cold shiver crawl up her spine. Her breathing grew fast, memories flashing, her squad screaming, ships exploding, metal closing in. Her vision shook, her heart pounded painfully. Ryan noticed instantly. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Astra, look at me." She forced her eyes away from the weapon and met his steady gaze. "You're not alone," he said. "You're not the broken soldier you think you are. You're the reason we're all still alive. You can do this." His words grounded her, pulling her out of the dark. She inhaled slowly. Her vision cleared. Her hands steadied again. "Thank you," she whispered. Ryan nodded once. "Always." Astra turned back to the crew with new strength. "Focus on the disruptor's energy core," she commanded. "If we overload the 3 main conduits, the structure will collapse." Captain Wren nodded. "Tell us where to hit." Astra studied the pulses of red energy, the repeating patterns of the machine guards. In seconds, she saw it, the weakness only she would notice. "There," she said, marking a glowing point. "And there. And the last one underneath the structure. It's protected, but not fully." "Underneath?" a pilot asked through the intercom. "That's a dangerous angle." "Yes," Astra said, "but humans are good at dangerous angles." The final run. Human attack wings launched forward. Their engines glowed bright in the dark nebula, leaving blue trails through the fog. Machine ships swarmed around them, moving in perfect deadly order, but Astra guided the pilots in real time. "Turn left! Drop altitude! Boost engines! Now!" Her voice held confidence she thought she had lost forever. The first conduit exploded. The second followed minutes later. But the third, the one beneath the structure, was heavily guarded. Machine fighters formed a metallic storm, blocking every approach. Astra watched the maps. Her mind raced. Her instincts screamed. She saw a path, but it was risky, almost impossible. But she also knew humanity had survived impossible things before. She turned to the captain. "I need to fly." Captain Wren stared at her. "Astra, no one else can make that angle," she said. "I know the path. I've flown it before in training. I can do it again." Ryan looked at her, understanding everything in her eyes. "If you go," he said softly, "come back." She gave him a small smile. "I plan to." Astra takes the sky. Again, moments later, Astra sat inside a sleek human fighter. The controls felt familiar, almost welcoming. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with something she thought she'd lost. Purpose. She took off from the Helios crown, diving into the nebula storm. Machine ships swarmed toward her, red lights flashing, wings slicing through dark clouds. Astra did not flinch. She twisted, rolled, accelerated, and dodged with skill that felt like flying through memories. Every movement was clean, sharp, human. "Almost there," she whispered. She saw the conduit. The path was tight. 2 metal walls closing fast. A tunnel of death. Her hands moved before she thought. The fighter slipped through the narrow gap, engines roaring, machine fire streaking past her wings. She fired. A bright explosion ripped through the structure. The quantum disruptor shook, sparks shooting out. Then, with a final burst of white light, it collapsed. The shockwave pushed Astra's fighter hard, but she held control. The command room erupted in cheers. Captain Wren shouted, "Direct hit! Disruptor destroyed!" Ryan closed his eyes in relief. "Astra, you did it!" Returning home. Astra guided her damaged fighter back to the Helios crown. As she stepped out, the crew applauded her, cheering her name, the name she once tried to hide. But among all those faces, she searched for only one. Ryan approached her slowly, a warm smile in his eyes. "You saved us," he said. Astra shook her head. "No, we saved each other." Ryan's gaze softened. "I saw your worth the moment I met you. I just needed you to see it too." Astra touched the old scars on her arm, not with shame this time, but with pride. "They are not signs of weakness," she said quietly. "They are proof that I survived." Ryan nodded. "And proof that you rose again." Together they looked out at the stars, the same stars Astra once feared to face. Now they represented her future. Humanity had won because of her. And Astra Vale finally believed in the worth he had seen all along.